What's good, MooMoo crew, and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, thank you so much for stopping by. Don't forget to like the video if you enjoy the content. It really helps out the channel. If you've ever modded Skyrim, then you already know how much planning goes into keeping your game stable. When I started diving deep into Skyrim modding, I realized I picked up a ton of great practices that should honestly be applied across the board, and that includes The Sims 3. So I reapproached my Sims 3 modding journey with a new mindset. My goal? To disprove the myths and show y'all what's actually possible, so let's break it down. Prove that CC and mods don't break your game. A lot of vanilla EA players claim anything outside of NROS will make your game crashy and unplayable, so let's challenge that. Prove that you can have amazing performance and stable frame rates with CC and mods, again despite what people say, and prove that you can play long-term saves loaded with CC and mods without fearing random corruption or needing to restart. I knew this was possible because it's possible in Skyrim. While the engines are completely different, the principles of modding are actually quite similar, so let's get into it. What I learned through years of research. After years of modding and testing, here's what I found. Yes, some CC can break your game, but only if it's corrupt. The only time a piece of create a sim or object CC will actually cause crashes is if there's something in the file itself that's broken. For example, the infamous The Sims resource counter, or CC with mysteriously missing files that the game struggles and fails to read. High poly CC and performance. Now let's talk high poly CC, the most misunderstood topic in Sims 3 modding. You can use high poly CC, but it needs to be minimal. Too many polygons in your game will eventually cause mesh explosions, yep, literal visual chaos, lag and stuttering as the game tries to load all that excess detail, crashes from the engine being overwhelmed. That's why many players push for low poly meshes. The Sims 3 is running on an older game engine after all, but here's my take. Both extremes don't work for everyone. Saying never use high poly CC or always use high poly CC and just get a good PC leaves a lot of simmers out. My recommendation, stick to low to medium poly CC as your baseline, sprinkle in high poly pieces here and there if you really want them. That's the sweet spot for any kind of player, regardless of your setup. Creators and converters, let's talk decimation. A big part of this issue is that a lot of CC creators or converters don't know how to reduce poly counts, aka decimate, or don't realize how important it is in the first place. And honestly, I don't blame them. There aren't many tutorials out there that emphasize just how important decimation is for game performance. Here's a quick pro tip I learned from Blender users in a 3D modeling Discord. They were super helpful and kind. When decimating for The Sims 3, use remove doubles on older Blender versions or merge by distance on newer Blender versions before decimating. This keeps the mesh together and prevents it from breaking apart during the decimation process. I actually taught 𝐒𝐈𝐴 this trick too. That's what you see in her latest tutorial. Thanks for the full credits. For users wondering, why is my game still lagging? You might be asking yourself, but I don't use a lot of high poly CC and I've checked for corrupt CC too, so why is my game still laggy? My answer might surprise you, but it's also something you've probably heard before. Memory. That's it. You don't have enough available space on your PC to run your game with all that CC. I've worked one-on-one with plenty of Sims 3 players who have said, I ran everything through 𝐿𝖐𝐺's dashboard, I only downloaded low poly CC, I compressed and merged everything through CC Magic, yet their game was still laggy. So they assume The Sims 3 is just broken and will lag no matter what. Wrong. I usually ask them one thing. How much free space do you have left on your PC? And it's always in the red. When your PC is running low on space, it's not just The Sims 3 that suffers. No game is going to run well under those conditions. Once I guide them through cleaning up their system, deleting junk files, and freeing up space until their drive is back in the blue, they boot up their game again and suddenly their Sims 3 save is running way smoother, even with all that merged CC. Bottom line, CC actually isn't your biggest enemy. Once you account for poly count issues, your next major performance bottleneck is simply available space. Make sure your PC has room to breathe if you want your Sims to live their best lag-free lives. So what a mod list is. In the Skyrim community, we use the term mod list load order all the time, but a lot of Sims 3 players aren't familiar with it. So when I reference a mod list or load order, I'm talking about a curated, tested, and locked-in collection of mods designed to last through a long-term save file. There's a huge difference between randomly hoarding CC and mods versus intentionally building a mod list. For example, someone building a mod list is going to test each set of CC or each gameplay mod before ever starting a serious save. They're checking for bugs, performance issues, conflicts, and how it all plays together. On the flip side, someone not building a mod list will usually just throw new mods or CC into their folder while already in the middle of playing. That approach approach makes it almost impossible to isolate what's causing lag, bugs, or crashes. That's not a good modding practice. Worse, many players don't delete their caches when they're adding or removing mods, which can lead to misleading results. A lot of people blame a specific piece of CC or a mod for breaking their game, when really, they didn't test properly, or they skipped the basics like clearing their caches. The whole point of playtesting is to gauge performance and stability, so when you do start that serious save, you've already filtered out the unstable stuff. I know from experience, after I properly built and playtested my mod list, I was able to play one long-term save for over 2 real-world years with no major issues. Every problem I had before that came down to sloppy habits, not deleting caches, not sorting my folders, and not playtesting. Once I corrected those behaviors and adopted structured modding practices, it changed my entire experience with The Sims 3. So my modding workflow. Now I want to walk you through my modding workflow. How I test mods, evaluate them, and finally lock in a mod list for a serious save file. A lot of you have already seen parts of this process in action, but today I'm giving you the full behind the scenes breakdown. What am I looking for? What's the goal? How do I decide if a mod actually fits into my build? Let's start at the beginning, the planning stage. This part is both fun and pretty straightforward. I organize my mod list by theme. Here are some examples: cyberpunk, sci-fi, mods, CC, and careers that fit a futuristic world, medieval, overrides, no electricity mods, medieval themed careers, CC, etc., Asian themed. There's so much amazing content out there. This theme really deserves its own full category, especially helpful if you're rebuilding a world to resemble a real region of Asia. Modern family play, likely what most of you are currently playing at the moment. This ranges from late night singles gameplay to full generations family play. Then there's my all-purpose folder, basics. These are the essentials I use in every playthrough, regardless of theme. Think bug fixes, tuning mods, camera controls, and core enhancements. So what changes between the themes? Everything from default replacements, create a sim and lighting, to custom careers that match the setting, script mods that tweak gameplay like a no cell phones mod for medieval saves. By starting with a clear theme and structure, I'm able to test intentionally and build immersive save files without overloading my game. It keeps performance high and the experience consistent. The testing stage. Once I've got my basic mod folder locked in and stable, testing the other themed folders becomes way easier. That's because most of the themed mods are pretty lightweight compared to the heavy hitters in my core basics mod list. So here's what I look for when playtesting. Long-term stability. This is huge. I don't just test how the game feels on day one. I play at least 2 sim weeks and a fresh save, because here's the rule that I live by. The performance you get after 2 sim weeks is generally what you can expect for the rest of the save. During this time, I monitor lag progression, does it get worse, routing issues, bugs introduced by new mods, mod conflicts, or overlapping tuning. If I notice issues, I'll try to isolate the problem. Most of the time I can guess what's causing it. Experience will do that. But when things get unpredictable, I fall back on the trusty 50-50 method. Bug hunting 101. This method is a lifesaver when you just don't know what's going wrong. Here's how to do it. Split your mod list in half, remove one half from your game, delete your caches, start a new save, do not use your old one, replicate the bug, or if it was random, just play for at least 3 sim days. Now, if the bug doesn't happen, great. It was likely in the other half. If the bug does happen, it's in the half you kept. Then repeat. Take that half, split it again, delete caches, new save, test. Keep narrowing it down until you found the mod or group of mods causing the issue. This is tedious, but the fastest and most reliable way to root out bad mods, especially after big updates or when adding a lot of CC at once. Script error logs, error trap. Let's talk about script error logs, specifically the ones generated by error trap. They can be incredibly helpful when you're tracking down an issue, but the truth is most people don't know how to read them. Reading these logs is an art, and like any art, it takes time, trial and error, and a bit of intuition, especially if you're not familiar with how mods function on a technical level. If you understand what a mod does, you'll get better at reading what the log is telling you. This is something I've learned from other mod-heavy games like Skyrim. It's not just about spotting red text or crashes, it's about context. Here's a quick breakdown of what to look at. Number 1, stack calls, mod list before the crash. This section usually shows you which mods were being accessed right before the game threw the error, and that's your first clue. But here's the catch. The log might not show the actual problem mod. Sometimes the log just names whatever other mods were interacting with it, innocent bystanders. So even if something shows up in that list, don't immediately assume it's the villain. It might just be in the wrong place at the wrong time. 2, sometimes it's useless. Let's be real, the log isn't always helpful. If your game didn't run long enough before crashing, the log might not have caught what triggered it. Other times it'll give you very little to work with, but even then it's still worth checking. 3, watch As for what's new, if you're familiar with what your usual logs look like, and yes, you should be checking them periodically, then something new will stand out right away. If a new script error pops up after installing a certain mod, that's your cue to investigate. Like I said, it's an art. The more time you spend with your mod list, the more naturally this skill will come. And once you get the hang of it, these logs go from overwhelming walls of text to gold mines of information. Things you want to observe while playtesting. Here's what I focus on when I'm playtesting a themed mod setup. These are the red flags I'm actively watching for. 1. Lag. Some mods won't lag your game right away, but give it time. Performance issues often build up gradually, and by the time you're deep into a save, things start to feel heavier. But here's the rule I go by: 2 sim weeks. If your save performs fine after 2 sim weeks of regular play, it's generally going to stay stable. That's your benchmark. 2. Stutter. This one's more specific. You'll want to pay attention to the time of day in game. Does the stutter only show up in the mornings? Does it go away later? Does it always come back at the same time? That's a clue. A mod might be triggering certain events like NPC routines or global scripts during that time window. Think about what you've added that could be doing that. 3. Routing issues. Routing problems can be caused by mods, but in most cases the world or lots are to blame. Routing issues can also fall under lag and stutter, but because routing issues can cause both, it needs its own section. For example, I once had a deco building in a custom world that looked fine, but was blocking the sidewalk. Sims couldn't walk past it. I just nudged it slightly backward, and the problem, lag and stutter, disappeared. Tips: check for furniture that's too close together. Make sure Sims can comfortably move around rooms, especially high traffic areas. It's not just about front doors. Think exits, paths, and anything tight in layout. Fixing routing issues can save a world you really want to play in. 4. Bugs. We already talked about this, but just to reiterate, isolate the issue. Use your judgment, and if needed, go full 50-50 method. You know the drill. 5. Crashing. Crashing is usually just a symptom of a deeper bug. And yes, it's frustrating, but here's how I handle it. I try to recreate the crash. I go back into the game without deleting my caches, and I do the exact same interaction again. If it crashes again, boom, I now know what triggered it. Then I remove the suspect mod, delete my caches, and then I try the interaction one more time. If no crash happens after that, I've got my answer. If you delete your caches while you are trying to determine if a mod caused your crash, the results will likely be unpredictable. Deleting the caches allowed the mod to rebuild itself on that play session, meaning you may not experience the crash that time, but after not deleting your caches, you would again. Deleting your caches once you remove the mod and doing the interaction just confirms it was that mod causing the issue. So just understand what the process of deleting caches is actually doing to your game, and you'll be fine. 6. Stability. Once you've ruled out lag, stutter, routing problems, bugs, and crashes, you can start treating the test save like a real one. Play it as if it were your main and just observe. By the time you hit 2 sim weeks, you'll know if your game is in a stable place. If nothing major pops up by then, you're likely good to go for a long-term save. The lock-in stage. Once everything has been play tested, it's time to lock in your mod list, or at least the section you've just finished testing. At this point, the bugs are worked out, the performance is stable, you've ruled out lag, crashes, and routing issues, and you've hit your 2 sim week benchmark with no surprises. Now, you're officially ready to move this list into long-term use. How I lock it in. I merge the finalized mods for that category and drop them into my mods folder. They stay there untouched unless a new mod comes out that I really want to add. At that point, I'll repeat the same testing process with just the new addition. That way, I'm never tearing apart my whole loadout just to add one thing. Think of this stage like creating a 𝐒𝐤𝐵𝖕𝖔𝖗 style list, but for The Sims 3. It's a curated, tested, and battle-hardened loadout that's ready to launch a serious save. From here, you can finally settle into long-term gameplay, knowing your setup is solid. What people get wrong. Let's talk about something important. The misconceptions people have when using or sharing my methods. I get it. What I do is new, it's specific, and it's structured around how I've learned to mod The Sims 3 in a way that pushes the game to its limits while keeping it stable and smooth. It's why my content stands out. But with that visibility, I've seen more and more people picking apart my methods without actually understanding them, and that creates a real problem. What happens is they misinterpret what I said, spread it around, other people try it, their games break, and suddenly we've completely missed the point. My entire goal is everything I share is so you can enjoy The Sims 3 the way I do, with high performance and deep roleplay mechanics. But if my advice gets warped and used out of context, it defeats the purpose entirely. That's why I want to say this clearly. Do not take anyone's word as law, not even mine, especially not mine. The only way to really learn how to optimize your game is through trial and error. That's how I figured it out, and that's the same way you'll get to a place where your game is truly your own. The copy-paste problem. A lot of people take my methods, don't credit me, then mess them up because they don't actually understand what they're doing. They try to teach others, but when something goes wrong, they can't explain why, and now someone's game is broken. People understandably want answers, but they were misled. People end up deleting their entire mods folder, not knowing that the issue was fixable. Had I been credited, they could have come directly to the source and I would have helped them. But because I'm not credited, people end up stuck in this loop of modding and breaking their saves. Not only that, but because the methods are being taken from me, you'll have people who got the wrong information with the same idea coming into my comment section to argue with me about how the method doesn't work. It isn't until I walk them through it step by step in a Discord call where they open up their game and see the level of performance they are getting now after doing the method properly. That all could have been avoided had the person who originally copied my method would have simply credited me. Hand-holding versus learning. I get a lot of DMs and comments from people looking for mod support, questions that have already been answered by the mod authors or in the comments section of the original download page. And while I don't mind questions, I do get concerned when people expect me to spoon-feed answers they could have learned by testing something in game for 5 minutes. If you're gonna mod The Sims 3 like this, you need to test for yourself, look things up, and use your own judgment. You won't always catch everything. I don't either. For example, I switched from one stretch child repair mod to a no stretch version by 𝐒𝐤𝐕𝓚 and didn't realize for weeks that it was causing my sinks to bug out every time Sims used it. It wasn't until I started thorough playtesting that a subscriber came into my comments and let me know the exact mod causing this bug. Even small changes can break big things. You need to be able to pay attention. So trust yourself. In the Skyrim modding scene, if you ask something obvious, people roast you. And while I don't recommend that level of toxicity, I do think it taught me something valuable. Self-sufficiency. When I couldn't find the answer online, then I asked. And once I got better at testing and isolating issues, I didn't need to ask as much because I could solve things myself. That's the level I want to get all of you to. You don't need to become a professional debugger, but you do need to understand what you're doing well enough that you can speak clearly when something goes wrong. Because that's how you help mod authors fix actual issues. And that's how this community gets better. From the other side, as a creator, I've seen people say wild things about my mods, claiming they caused bugs I had nothing to do with. And when I investigate, it's usually another mod or an unrelated game issue. But the damage is already done. People see those claims and now they're afraid to download the mod. That's frustrating for me and for anyone who could have benefited from it. This is why many times you'll get a rude response from creators as you put their credibility on the line when you claim their mods did something so extreme. Worse, the person who made the claim ends up feeling embarrassed and afraid to speak up again. That's not helping anyone. Final takeaway, we all need a solid grasp of good modding practices, so actual bugs can be caught, so creators aren't blamed for things they didn't do, so new players can confidently build and tweak their game, and so you can actually enjoy the content instead of fearing it'll break something. Modding can be complex, but once you trust yourself to test, to question, and to learn, there's no limit to how good your game can get. Using mods versus modular loadouts. The final thing I want to address in this section is the difference between simply using mods and actually building a modular, maintainable loadout. A lot of people think modding is just about collecting cool downloads and throwing them into the mods folder, but if that's your approach, your game is going to break often, and you won't even know why. So let me be clear. Using mods does not equal having a modded setup. When you build a modular, maintainable loadout, you're doing more than just adding content. You're organizing, testing, and structuring your mods in a way that makes them easy to update, easy to troubleshoot, easy to expand without breaking your save. This means grouping similar mods together by function, keeping logs of what you added and when, isolating high-risk mods for individual testing, knowing which mods are essential versus optional, and understanding what depends on what. That's the real difference between someone who downloads a bunch of stuff and hopes for the best versus someone who can run The Sims 3 with dozens, even hundreds of mods, and have buttery smooth gameplay. It's not about quantity, it's about structure. If your mod list is just a pile, your game will be a mess. If your mod list is modular, you're building a system you can maintain, tweak, and grow without constantly starting over. So this is optional, but let's use a visual mod list example, because now I want to talk about how I personally organize and merge my mods. This was requested by MooMoo on Tumblr, so here it is, step by step. My basics mod build folder layout. Food, is the first folder. This is where I keep all of my custom recipes and food related mods. 𝐼𝑔𝑗 is where animations, sliders, 𝐒𝐤𝐤𝐸 default replacements, UI default replacements, 𝐒𝐤𝐤𝐸 presets all go. Mod doc is where I keep documentation for mods, plus my own notes like 𝖈𝖕𝖕𝑔𝑝 codes and S3DT shortcut keys. Music, mods that add or enhance radio stations. Overrides, all non-script mods like tuning files, XMLs, and fixes. I break these down by expansion pack, so anything in here directly needs or enhances a specific EP. Passion, all NSFW mods plus animations. I just want to note that body replacers go under 𝐼𝑔𝑗 𝐒𝐤𝐤𝐸 default replacement. They don't go in the passion folder. Script objects, scripted objects with custom interactions like 𝖒𝐤𝐸𝐸𝐸 sunglasses, 𝖒𝐤𝐸𝐕𝐷, 𝑒yoga mod. For my scripts folder, I break them down by expansion pack. In those expansion pack folders, I also have large DLC kind of mods with their own folders: the private clinic mod, the religion mod, the skincare mod, and the 𝖈𝐊𝖕𝖕𝖔 mod. I also have a folder for environmental mods, and then I also have a folder for gen and fixes. These are general fixes and tweaks that are scripts. For my store, these are mods that require store content. I do want to note that my store objects are merged via ccMagick, but my store mods go here. Testing folder, for mods I'm still playtesting. If there's just a few, I leave them unmerged. If it's a lot, I merge them to help with load times. So now let's talk about the 𝐋𝐤𝐤 folder. This is my merging workflow. Once I'm happy with the folder structure, I break them down further into 3 main batches. So the mod A folder is where I merge all of my script objects, and I merge all of my scripts, and then I merge those merged files into mod A. You see? For mod B, I merge food, 𝐼𝑔𝑗, overrides, store, and then I merge all of those merged files into mod B. For mod C, I merge all of my music, I merge all of the passion, and then I merge both of those into mod C. I then take mod A, mod B, mod C, and move them into my documents Sims 3 mods folder. So why do I merge like this? S3PE is powerful but a little dated. If you try to merge everything at once, it can crash or throw memory errors. So I came up with something I call deeply merging. You merge folders individually first, and then you merge those merged files into even fewer files. This lets me get over 100 mods down to just 3 files. My game launches faster, runs smoother, and any lag from a new mod in the testing stage is easier to detect since my base loadout is already playtested and optimized. Cleaner files, faster game, happy simmer. So let's talk about the conclusion. I know we love a good challenge in the Sims 3 community, from rags to riches to legacy chaos, but here's a different kind of challenge. I challenge every simmer watching this to stop playing The Sims 3 on hard mode. You don't have to suffer through lag, crashes, or long loading screens just because it's an older game. With a little structure, patience, and the right tools, The Sims 3 can be as stable, beautiful, and smooth as any other modern game. Think of it like Skyrim modding. The same principles apply. Plan, test, merge, and optimize. If you're tired of constant troubleshooting, inconsistent performance, or trying to figure out where a broken mod is hiding, then it's time to take control of your game setup. You can have both the chaos of gameplay and the calm of a well-oiled mods folder. If you enjoyed this video and would like to download my template CC and mods folder, let me know in the comments below and I'll happily upload it for you guys. Thank you all so much for hanging out with me today. I truly hope this video helps someone out there. Happy simming, and I'll see you soon.